Hi, it's James. I thought I would create a video to showcase my 10 favorite movies from the 2000s. But before we get into the top 10, I thought I would show you the honorable mentions that didn't quite make the cut, but are still very good nonetheless. There's going to be movies that you're not going to see on a list, and you're not going to agree with movies that are on a list. But there is my list, so it is what it is. So here come the honorable mentions right now. Honorable mentions! Now with the honorable mentions for the decade of the 2000s. Start off with I got the Kill Bill twofers, which I liked Kill Bill Volume 1 a lot more than not Volume 2. It's not to say it's bad, but it had me more involved in it. That's probably why it's not making my top 10. Tropic Thunder, a very, very enjoyable movie. I like Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in here probably more than I like Iron Man. That's probably why Iron Man's not in here. Spider-Man 2, highly enjoyable, but for the longest time, I didn't get why depression would stop Peter Parker's DNA from working, but I guess from what I understand through regular sports, depression can do just about anything. And I have all three Return of the King movies in my honorable mentions. It's exciting. It's Star Wars for our generation, but I haven't really revisited the movies in maybe 5-6 years, so that's why it's in my honorable mentions and not any higher. I'm not saying that they're not good movies, but they're not really in my top 10. Well, anyways, let's start with the top 10 and see what we have. Number 10! There's something for acting in a movie with an ensemble cast, but it's an even greater feat to act in a movie pretty much by yourself. So I'm going to pick the Duncan Jones movie, Moon, with Sam Rockwell in it as a solitary astronaut who has a robot pretty much as his only companion, who's voiced by Kevin Spacey, who's coming as he comes to the end of a 3-year mining mission on the moon, and he gets involved in an accident outside in the lunar surface, and when he comes back to the mining colony, he finds a surprise. I don't want to give away the surprise because it's better to be seen than for me to tell you about it, but this is probably one of the better science fiction movies I've seen in a long time. I was recommended to it by a friend of mine, and I can't stop recommending it to other people, so it's a little known movie, so if you get a chance, please check out Moon. You won't regret it. Number 9! In The Departed, Leonardo DiCaprio was recruited by Martin Sheen and Mark Wahlberg to infiltrate Jack Nicholson's gang in Boston. Meanwhile, Nicholson sent his own recruit, Matt Damon, to infiltrate the Boston Special Police in an engaging crime movie directed by Martin Scorsese, which won him the Director's Oscar for the first time and won Best Picture. It's a gritty, dark, vulgar, angry, violent movie, but it's one of my favorite movies from the past 2000s, and every time I watch it, there's something new to watch. It's atmospheric, it's sometimes claustrophobic, and sometimes it's just on the edge of your seat, so you've seen it. Just if you haven't, please watch it, and if you have, watch it again. You'll probably see something new. Number 8. Crime boss Ray Fiennes tells his hitmen Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell to go hide out for a little bit after a botched hit. So Brendan Gleeson decides the best way to go hiding would be in Bruges. A comedy, more or less, but it has Colin Farrell's best performance that I've seen as a hitman who's emotionally compromised, who takes the botched hit personally. I'm not going to tell you what goes on, but it more or less has a bullseye on his head for more than one person, and but most of the comedy in the movie comes from the fact that Colin Farrell doesn't want to even be in there, but Brendan Gleeson's like, oh, we're going to go and we're going to tour the sites because this is a beautiful place. I don't understand why you don't want to be here. And Ray Fiennes is incredible as a crime boss, but he has a moral code. And that's all I'm just going to say about that. And if you have not seen In Bruges, I would suggest you do it. It's one of my favorite movies. Number 7. Many will say that the quintessential Bill Murray performance would be in Ghostbusters or Stripes or Groundhog Day, but I'm going to say Lost in Translation, that's the title of the movie, is probably Bill Murray's greatest role as Bob Harris, who goes to Japan to do a quick alcohol commercial shoot, and he is suffering from severe jet lag, and he ends up meeting Scarlett Johansson on a whim at a hotel and just strikes up a platonic relationship, more or less. And the film's got great atmosphere. It's got great characters. You've heard of the movie. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a nice, relaxed, quiet movie. Bill Murray just is effortless in this movie, and he deserved all the award recognition he got for it. And Scarlett Johansson does a great job as the young woman who I would say willows her way into his life. Just two lost souls meeting each other, and they probably have no future of being in each other's life, but they have this moment in Japan. So yes, Lost in Translation is number 7 on my list. Number 6. I wanted to get a sequel to Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. But anyways, it's one of my favorite movies, with Russell Crowe as Captain Lucky Jack Aubrey, the captain of the MS Surprise, who's obsessed with getting a French privateer boat during the Napoleonic Wars off the coast of South America. His best friend is played by Paul Bettany, who's not sure if it's bordering on obsession or the right for king and country, but anyways, it's an enthralling adventure on the high seas, directed by Peter Weir. It's just a marvel to look at, and it's got a great story too, where there's times where Russell Crowe has to face a conflict between, the rules of king and country versus the hearts of friendship, and where do you make a decision that's right for you or right for your friend or right for a country, and how do you take with the circumstances for it? So yes, Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World. Number 5. In 1993 Somalia, a raid on African warlords goes terribly bad as members of the Delta Force and Army Rangers try to get out of Mogadishu in Black Hawk Down, directed by Ridley Scott. There are so many people in the movie. It's at least 20 or 30 literal main characters that you follow that you care about. Some of the highlights include Josh Hartnett as Sergeant Everson, who's put in charge of his first mission as he's trying to get his squad out alive, get as many members as he can out alive. Ewan McGregor as Grimy, who's he's a desk clerk to start off with, but he's participating in a mission, as a one-off. They're not expecting anything to go wrong, but things happen, and he realizes that war isn't all he's thought of it in his head. Sam Shepard is the general in charge who started the mission, and Tom Sizemore as one of the field commanders who realized that everything has gone to hell in a handbasket, and he's trying to get out. And yes, it's an amazing film and a triumph to be had. Number 4. The greatest cop in London is too good at his job, so I sent him to the small town of Sanford in Hot Fuzz, the second film in the so-called Cornetto trilogy, directed by Edgar Wright and starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. I love these movies. There's just something about it that's just a pure love for the craft. This film in particular, written by Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg, is just a love film to the 80s action films of the past. and even some of the Jerry Bruckheimer productions. And Timothy Dalton, what can you say? His mustache is worth millions alone in this movie. It acts beyond the Call of Duty. So, anyways, I don't know how else to get you to see the movie. I quote the movie. I love the movie. So, Hot Fuzz. Number 3. In near future Japan, the economy has collapsed. Unemployment is at 15%, and juvenile crime is unstoppable. So the government creates what is called the BR program in Battle Royale, which one of the most controversial movies in the last 12 years because it involves a class of ninth graders that are put into a situation by the government where they have to murder each other until there's one victor. It has a reputation of being as shocking as it is because they use actual kids that are that age, and it took Angry Bay 12 years to be able to have the rights to distribute it in America, but because you could only get it by import, which I used to have before I got the Blu-ray. It is as uncompromising, as shocking, and as violent as you've probably heard or you haven't heard. It's not for every taste, so you've been warned. Number 2. How do you top a film like Batman Begins? You make a film like The Dark Knight. One of, if not the greatest comic book movie ever made, it's one of the top 2 because it works so well. It doesn't even need to be a comic book movie. You can make it a crime movie, like a cop against a villain, but it works so well as Batman tries to do whatever he can to stop the villain known as the Joker, but the Joker is so unpredictable and chaotic. Batman is at a loss many times as each person tries to one-up each other. It's a story of escalation. How far will you go to stop this person? How far will you go to try to make your point? And it's just, wow. I can't really describe the movie anymore. If you've had to have seen it. If you're watching my video, I don't need to tell you to see it. But if you haven't, if you're like the 1 or 2 people in the world who have not seen it, I suggest you'd see it as soon as possible. My number 1 film for the 2000s. Okay, people that truly know me have to know that this has been my favorite film over the last 11, 12 years. The main actor in the film is the reason I'll watch any movie he's in. And that movie is Shaun of the Dead. The first movie in the Cornetto trilogy, directed by Edgar Wright, with Simon Pegg as Shaun, the slacker who's trying to better himself, but the problem is, it's a zombie apocalypse, and he's trying to do whatever he can to show his girlfriend he is reliable. He's this person she wants him to be. And all the while, the world has gone to hell in a handbasket. His best friend, Ed, is played by Nick Frost, and he's a slacker who he's okay with being a slacker, but he doesn't understand the gravity of the situation, more or less, as there's a scene where they're surrounded, and literally he picks up the cell phone, he's talking to his friend while everyone's trying to get into a building. It was a discovery. It was a little gem. It's one of my top 3 movies of all time. I love this movie more than a lot of things in the world. So yeah, Shaun of the Dead is my number 1 film for the decade of the 2000s. This was quite an enjoyable video to make, and thanks for watching, and I'll see if I can throw out another top 10 movie sometime. So if you have any suggestions, just let me know through the usual channels. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again.